Welcome back, everybody. This is the Refresh Point. My name is Ben, and as always, I'm joined by my constant co-host, Steve. How's it going?
Another week in the books. How about yourself?
You know, things are a little up and down right now, but that's not going to stop me from talking about some Weiss Schwarz. You got regionals going on. Slime just came out. It's a great time out here in Weiss Schwarz land.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all getting a little bit excited as we head towards the peak of the Weiss Schwarz season.
We are getting ready to compete in the Bushiroad Championship Series 2023 Worlds in Japan. Hopefully, the side events aren't canceled like the Pokemon Yokohama Open, but...
Let's also hope that at some point, Bushiroad puts a link to their website that actually points to this year's BCS Championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, prior to any of the events would be good, but I mean, ever would be just fine too.
I would like venue locations, days,
I mean,
times,
I had a friend. Yeah, I had a friend who was like, "How do I know when the shop challenges are?" I was like, "Oh, you can look on the website." He's like, "Where?" I was like, "Oh, you gotta like manually, hand hack the URL in." And he was like, "Why is it this way?" And I was like, I don't have a good answer to that.
I don't know. And people are trying to book flights and stuff, and we don't know if Weiss is on Sunday yet.
It should be.
It should be, but it has changed before, and it can change again.
I already booked it. It is what it is.
It sure is. We are back. I've been reincarnated as a slime yet again, ready to jam the latest version of Shizu and friends with their new best friend Nguyen. Regionals loom ever closer, and Steve and I are gonna get ready to show each other what exactly we think of the meta in our content farm. And most importantly, the latest news about Ufmi's poor Oshi that has people in Japan mad at him. So, shuffle your decks, tap or cut, and we'll get right into the refresh point with some breaking news. No Dio.
I hate to say that I told you so, but I figured it wouldn't take long. And I thought it would be the week of the release, but they went even sooner. Special, out of nowhere, just kill shot.
Yeah, they even had a little blog post that was like, we consulted the dev team for Japan, and they were like, you should ban this. And we were like, okay.
Good night.
Rest in peace, IMA. You lived for not very long.
You ruined Japan's logos for 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, we talked around this point exhaustively, but yeah, this is the right move. This is
the correct move, and now it's gone.
Yep.
I literally cut, once again, the ban happened during the editing of the last episode, and so I cut, I think an extended, 4 or 5, 6 minute discussion on, the what if scenario. Yeah. And now none of it matters. We're all good.
Yeah, and it's probably for the best. It was very, very problematic, so I think, this is the right move. Good job.
Slime is out. So on today's deck of the week, we will be talking about it. The 8 pants version specifically, not the Soe one, the good one.
Yeah, so the date of this recording is the official release date, but of course, the set's been out in Japan.
And a few of us have been testing it.
Yeah, this feels like the deck I have to play against the most, so one way or another, I am getting a lot of exposure to the slime proper builds for set 3.
Yeah, and one final small thing that happened, Alex Hodges had a Whatnot stream, which was very hyped to have an unopened case of Bunny Girl Senpai for set 1, and they were just giving away everything that was in the case. And then it was actually an unsealed case. And it was really unfortunate.
This podcast will never foment drama in the community because I don't think it's a good thing.
Ideally.
But
I just think it sucks.
It absolutely sucks. Yeah,
it's just really unfortunate that happened.
Yeah, because Alex really poured a lot of cash into that, and he could have gone a lot of directions with it, and he went community first. And I honestly respect him for that. I thought that was a very cool thing to do.
It was really cool.
And
it really was cool.
There's so few people in the space that are like willing to really wail out for the community like that, and it sucks that it kind of got, it backfired a little bit. I think they all took it in stride very well, but the moral of the story should be this guy is one of the most savvy whales in the community, and he got taken with a allegedly sealed case. This is a buyer beware for anyone buying old allegedly sealed Weiss product. Is buyer beware.
Yeah.
Because the chances of that stuff staying sealed is rare. So
it's pretty rough at this point for sure.
But yeah, they'll bounce back. It's the karma will return itself. I feel certain.
Yeah. And that's it this week for breaking news. There's not much until they release the regional dates. Please, regional dates times. Please.
There are some regional dates at least.
Or not. Yeah, sure. I guess there's dates technically.
They're on a weekend.
They are on a weekend. But like,
if they're not on Sunday, details? My Chicago plans are absolutely ruined already. So.
Details, Bushi, please. Details, please. Try to book flights, please. But yeah. And so in times like these, we're in kind of like a lull in kind of like the Weiss season, and so the spike order isn't super regular all the time. And so I've surprised Steve with this segment name. Sometimes we gotta go to the content farm, and we gotta pull up some crops, take it from the bag, and pull out some content that's really just free. And so for this week's content farm, I've got some tier list crops that we've harvested.
Yeah.
Taking a look at the future regional meta, we've both made our own tier list. We haven't seen each other's. We're going to consolidate them and take a look at what the differences and similarities might be. If they're exactly the same, I don't think they will be. If they're exactly the same, that would be hilarious, but I'm pretty sure it won't be, by just the value of me and Steve being different people.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. This is the first ever Refresh Point official. This is where we think the meta is tier list.
Yeah. And we are, what is it? We are today tier list Andes.
Yeah.
It's happened.
This is content that you get from lots of other places, and to be honest, it's probably much more exhaustive, but we did our best. And these are as accurate a representation as we believe can be in the meta. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
How do you want to do it?
I'm gonna react to yours first.
Okay.
And then you can react to mine, and then we can kind of see what we think. And for me, I haven't played against literally all of them.
Right.
So I can't have an opinion that's real on a lot of them.
I think that there's always going to be a situation where you're not going to have super familiarity with all the sets. I think we have a good idea of what every one of these decks does as their main game plan. Do we know all the specifics of all the mechanics? No, of course not.
Yeah.
But we definitely have at least... I would say I could confidently say I've faced 95% of these decks.
Sure.
So I think I feel pretty happy about my first thrust prior to any results.
Yeah. So at the top, Gura expected. You've treated your S tier like a lot more exclusively than mine. I can't actually get behind Overlord being this high. I even actually debated putting Door Bar in just top of B tier, unironically. Because I think the finishers are explosive, and of the decks that have explosive finishers, I guess Gura cares about having the board. Itsuki really doesn't. What is it? Bang Dream probably doesn't super care. I feel like the finishing power is such that if your deck idea is I want to hit 2 and I will hit myself to 2 as soon as possible, and then I have to really hope that everything goes right at level 2, I just feel like that just leads to a situation where you can be blown out of the game.
I think that, so for context, in my S tier, I have 2 decks.
It's Overlord and Gura.
Yeah, it is.
And it's specifically, it's Ainz, Dorbar, Overlord.
Yes. So I believe this deck to be one of the best in the format for, so when I was thinking about tiers, and specifically the S tier, I'm talking about decks that are a cut above in some way. And not just like the fact that they're doing good things, they're doing things that nobody else is even close to doing at specific breakpoints in the game.
Sure.
So, in the case of Overlord, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Since that was your specific question.
Like, I agree with Gura. Like, Gura can just kill you. Like, we all understand. Let's talk about Overlord for a sec.
So, here's my thing about Overlord and why I put it in the S tier. The window of counterplay to their strategies is tiny. And a lot of times it's not a window at all. So, for context, the deck wants to hit level 2 at the right time. And how it wants to hit level 2 is it wants to be slightly behind. So, opponent level 1 mid or high, them level 2. So, why is this? 1, we need most anti-level counters are level 2.
Yes.
Anti-level counters are the very small sliver window of counterplay that you can play against the Ainz combo.
That's it.
So, if I'm hitting you for free and there's no chance that you have anti-level counters, I can just slam you. So, there's that. Second thing. If I get on the board before you do, then you can't reverse me. So, the Ainz cannot be reversed after his combo turn.
Yeah.
Now, only one of them probably will be hexproof, and only one of them probably will be ginormous. But it's possible, hypothetically, that you could have 2 of them. And they can't be bombed, and they can't be overrun, and at the end of the combo turn, they blow up your whole board. So the problem is that it requires the player facing it to sculpt additional back row pieces if they need them. So if you're playing something like Itsuki, or if you're playing something like SDS, or if you're playing something like Kaguya, Door Choice Kaguya, you're blowing up all of their value engines. Like, you are blowing them all up. Yeah. And the chance of them being able to immediately recover them is not guaranteed. It's unlikely.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, blowing up a whole bunch of your opponent's value engines in the backstage is bad. Not being able to get back on the board in terms of reversing is bad. And all this together creates a problematic scenario where, as long as they keep getting bars, they can keep the game in a state where it is difficult to play, because the first bar combo is going to compress a bunch. And then if they get a refresh after that, you're going to have a pretty small deck, pretty well compressed deck, and you're going to have to fight this thing on the board. And there's some decks like Alice, like Slime, like even Itsuki to some extent, Gura to some extent,
Ichika to some
TRV to some extent, Ichika to some extent, NINO to some extent, that want to be on the board, and they can't, because
Slime can.
Because these things
spoiled.
Because these things are huge, and so it's like,
sure,
being 15-5 is too big for anyone. And so their ability to dominate the board at level 2 and then create a pretty secure finisher in terms of, if you're a level 3 and they start comboing with Ainz, you're gonna die probably.
Yeah,
because
sure,
all they need is like a little bit of reeling, and then the ones will put you down.
The ones will put you down.
So
yeah. Fair.
that's and the thing and the final point of this is that it's hard to strand this deck at specific points. They have a way to clock themselves for value repeatedly. So you can't like get them to 1-5 and hold them. That's not really a thing. And if you start to fall behind, then they can play a little more conservatively and still make the game difficult. So if you're playing Alice, it's annoying that they can side attack Alice for damage. Yep. And there's not much you can do about it. It's kind of the same scenario that Alice runs into with other early play level 3s, where they can side into her, and then if they're strong defensively, they can force her into an awkward state where she doesn't do well. And so if we're thinking about like quantity of decks in the meta, the biggest thing about Overlord is how I think it's very good into Alice. I think it's very decent into Gura. And those are going to be the prevailing quantity matchups, I believe, and along with Quint, in the tournament scene, at least on the front end, until stuff starts winning.
Sure.
You know, people are gonna 25% of the tournament's gonna be Alice, because Alice dominated the entire spring cycle. Like, there's no way that every other opponent's not gonna be Alice.
And another like 25% feels like it'll be Hololive.
Yeah. Everybody knows about the hotness, and it's going to be out for every single event.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I mean, people are going to be able to... I mean, Overlord will be able to hit definitely Hololive where it hurts, right?
Yeah. Blowing up your standby targets is super annoying.
Oh, yeah.
So talking about your S list. So, your S list...
So, because I had a different mindset for it.
Yeah.
My mindset is just, these are the decks that I feel like can consistently set up their game plan and then execute on it to win. And the reason why I put Overlord one tier down, even though it does have the board blow up, like at the time that I was thinking about it, because I don't think it compresses enough where you can like always be like, all right, I'll definitely have a turn at 2. Gets hit for 7, goes to 3, surprise Pikachu phase, right?
Yeah, of course, when you pick an aggressive game plan that has high payoff, much like the Alice game plan, it's gonna work most of the time.
For sure.
But when it fails, it will fail spectacularly. For sure. And so that is a risk.
Yeah, and I just felt
it's worth acknowledging.
Yeah, and I just felt like the failure cases for Alice were less, because in Overlord, you're deliberately hitting yourself already 2-2, like that's just going to happen.
Yeah, sometimes
for the most part, right? Like if you're not already at 2,
kind of depends on how Shaltir goes. Kind of depends on.
Fair enough.
Sometimes you'll see situations where in the Alice matchup they'll force themselves to 2 faster because Shaltir can't get easy reverses. But against a more standard deck that has a more standard level 1 game, Shaltir will be able to really generate more value.
Generate a lot of value. Yeah. And so I did throw it down for now, although I mean, like, I could see the argument for S tier. Blowing up the board is sick, by the way. But yeah, I mean, the other names here are kind of biased to recency, I guess, to be honest, because Overlord is also coming out in halfway through September?
September 1st.
Oh, no, it is coming September 1st. Okay, that's sooner than I thought it was.
It will be legal for almost every event.
Okay, so then I think I would actually push Overlord up, to be honest. I thought it was coming later and that there would be less playtime on it. But
assuming that they don't add any more events to the front of the schedule?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, it feels too late in the game to do that, but
but for me, it's like there's a familiarity aspect for me for Alice. Specifically, just like Kirito or Silica, I definitely don't believe in Argo with Alice. SDS, NINO, and Itsuki, like, NINO just got uber buffed, and so did Itsuki. And so, like, the scammers are out in full force, ready to scam. And I think I rate that highly, personally. So,
so for context, Ben has the 8-door Quint, the 8 standby Quint, Hololive door Pants, or standby Pants, excuse me.
Yeah. We have Asukigura, Alice with either Silica or Kirito, and just regular Escanor
SDS
in
Escanor.
S tier.
Yeah. So what's striking about your S tier for me is I like all these decks fine. And obviously SDS and NINO are both fresh off of Restrict. Of course, NINO got another set. SDS did not get another set. I'm fine with all of these choices. NINO does not seem like it is going to be good this season.
You think so?
Standby, I don't think is going to be good this season, and this is why.
And you did put it in B tier for context. Steve did put NINO in B tier. Yeah.
So here's my thing about NINO and why I don't think Standby is going to be very good this season.
Sure.
One, I don't think Standby does well into Overlord. I think Overlord blows that deck out. Two, I think that the NINO matchup in specific struggles against Alice. What Alice wants to do on the board is big on defense, small on offense, or medium, or however you want to think of it. They have less power on offense and more power on defense, which leans into the weaknesses of NINO, who is small on defense and bigger on offense, especially at level 1. At level 1, you have to play really delicately, especially if they've already Aliced. If they have triple Alice, then the board becomes really perilous, because now memory counter can send your 2/2 to memory, and the 2/2 is the backbone of what keeps your hand going in that deck, and without it starts to get really complicated. Now, they have a lot of ways to generate power. It's probably not possible for the memory counter to beat Alice on the 2/2, but I think it's difficult for them to hold on to the board for a while. Now, luckily, Alice has no way to permanently remove hand-on core characters, so eventually, when they hit level 2 and they start putting 3s down in the back row, they seize the tempo of the game. But at that point, you just have to hope that you can hold off their level 3 game from that position.
And I rate again. I still rated it highly, still, just because of its continued presence, and a lot of the tools that they got just really help streamline their entire game plan continuously.
There is no better 8 standby deck.
Yeah,
I'll say that, because their consistency is unparalleled in terms of when they trigger, how often they trigger,
what they trigger.
Yeah, if they want standbys, they will have them. And so there is that. And it's not a deck to be underestimated. Lord knows it's been top of the meta or fringe near top of the meta for forever.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm a little soft on NINO, but I'm soft on all standby decks. I didn't put any standby decks, not true standby decks, in S or A tier.
Yeah. And so that's kind of both of our S tiers covered. Let's run down to A. So in A tier, you have kind of our usual suspects, let's say, of the meta. 8-door Quince, Alice, and I think basically both of the versions that we think are salient. Escanor, New Slime, Saikano, Kaguya, Door Choice, Kanana Marine, Danmachi, and Yukina 8-door Bang Tree with the Yukina anniversary combo into the Cosmic.
Yeah.
And so I will have both of these on the screen. They've already been on the screen actually the whole time.
Yeah.
But if you need to follow along and you're on audio, I'll just have a link. If you really want to click on the Google Drive link, you sure can. This is definitely kind of a video optimized podcast, unfortunately, today. But I agree with all this for sure. Obviously, I put some of these in S tier, but that's because I think we were thinking of those tiers differently, and I think this makes complete sense.
Yeah, so the ones that might be a little bit controversial, Saikano is not a popular set, so people probably aren't getting a ton of exposure to the set. So they may not think it's it's not as good as it is, and it isn't as flashy.
No.
So it doesn't do anything crazy explosive. What it does do is play the memory game better than anyone.
Yeah.
And so, like, Slime handed that crown over as soon as the set 3 came out. Like, this is the memory deck. And it plays the memory game better than anyone. So there are a lot of times where if you don't get to them in deck 1, it becomes really hard to deal damage.
Yeah.
And so there's some matchups where they'll be cursed, but like STS really is problematic for them because it doesn't care about compression really, as long as the game is like decent. But other decks that need to land hits, if their game's going really well, you can't hurt them. And so you have to kind of chew on them one hit at one time. Like, you need a chunk every turn. And so you're trying to get 2 or 3 damage in, try to keep the game close. But yeah, that deck is problematic if you've never faced it. There are definitely game states where it feels super unwinnable.
Yeah.
The other one that probably most people wouldn't agree with is Danmachi. Danmachi,
which we both agree on, actually.
Yeah. Danmachi is the kind of deck that is really good in the meta. Really good against Alice, really good against Standby.
It's always had the power.
It's always got power, and it gets power for cheap, which is not something that every set gets. And so we have power for cheap, and we have good deck speed, like deck warp speed. Mm-hmm. And we have a reasonable finisher, nothing crazy, but it gets the job done. And so it also has a very annoying level 0 game. It's got one of those double bounce back zeros that won't let you do anything.
And also Ricky's yourself in case you needed that extra push.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really like Danmachi. Oh, it draws a lot of vanilla draws. Vanilla draws that draw climaxes is a highly underrated thing. And if you have the pants trigger on top of vanilla drawing like 3 to 5 cards every cycle, basically you're drawing an extra time every time you're during your turn, during your opponent's turn from torch events. You're gonna get a lot of climaxes in hand. You're gonna be able to slam every single turn. Oh, yeah. And so I really like that deck. I think it does take a lot to pilot it. It's not easy to pilot. And some of the matchups are perilous.
I think it's the crack deck where, like, you know, you ran into the tournament and you were fucking ready to go. You were hopped up, ready to go. You're getting in there. You've got all the calculations ready, and you keep that going through the whole time. You're ready to play Danmachi.
Yeah, it's definitely the type of deck you wouldn't want to face. Like, there'll be a highly ranked one in a lot of top 8s because it's just like it's the type of deck that does really well and not many people play. Mm-hmm. And those decks are always a little spooky.
Like, the masters of Danmachi will be ready to torch perfectly, and you will never understand.
No.
You can't. No. He'll be like, mill 3, cancel on 1. Mill 1, cancel on 1. Mill 3, cancel on 1. What did you say?
Yeah, it's like, one of those things that
they'll get it.
Yeah, only good players can do it. So if you're able to do it, then that's good.
Godspeed.
All right.
In my A tier list, I definitely put in a few more lists that were just like, I think it's consistent enough to get its game plan off and just kind of go.
Yeah.
This is definitely more controversial. I put Master of the Elements in A tier, which is very funny, especially since I did not really play it and you did, and I think you put it you put it in B tier.
Yeah,
okay. And I just think that it's another deck that if it's piloted well, like, it'll just do. I put a lot of I do put a little bit of faith in Dancing Dragons. I'm not gonna lie.
So I obviously like this deck, but and the finisher is just surreal. Like it just works. But it's the type of deck that's gonna brick off on you once a tournament probably, where nothing goes particularly well. And you have to play a very, very scuffed matchup. You kind of have to hope that your opponent is in a similar state and you can kind of squeak out the door. But there is a lot of moving parts, and it is subject to some difficulties, especially in certain matchups. I think it's very poor into Alice until you get to 2 and you can kind of like right the board a little bit. But prior to that, it's a real struggle fest. And I think that it's the type of deck that will require extreme skill to pull off. But I also noticed you put see, this is what happens with tier lists. The decks that you're either personally piloting or get personally inflicted on you frequently, they show up in higher tiers. So I see Ichika 8 choice here.
Ichika, yeah.
Ichika.
No, okay, but I actually believe in the game plan a lot. Like, I feel like just having a board of 3s that say Scry on them and then still having a legitimate finisher afterwards is a good game plan. And they have the card pool to really just pull it together. And
so
I don't know. Maybe I'm trolling. To be fair,
I don't hate the deck.
I don't hate the deck. But
I like it fine.
I think it's better in my version of like what I'm considering A and B tier. I think it's definitely better than B tier.
So I like the deck fine. My biggest beef with it is the one combo is
suspect,
not good. And
sure.
They do have a very nice level 2 game plan, but the way people build this deck is scary as hell to me, where they're like 4-3-1 with one of the finishing combo. That feels insane. Like, I realize that you can like sculpt it, but it could go anywhere.
I definitely feel like a 4-2-2 or even a 3-2-3 is, or like a 3-3-2 is more salient.
I think
but, I feel like played properly, constructed properly, like it'll run.
I do like the structure of it. It's got a very good level 2 game into a very okay level 3 game. It's like you don't feel bad investing in the 2 game because your 3 game's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So that's fine. The other deck I noticed that is in your A tier is Pants Book Slime.
Pants Book Slime.
Which is still here. We're still standing that.
Yeah.
Why? Why is it still here?
Saikano is better at it.
Yes.
But Slime still does it.
Sure. But
sometimes
okay,
what
does set 3 give that deck in particular?
So yeah, let's talk about the actual new deck. We've pivoted off of memory. We don't do that here.
Yeah.
What we have is 2/6 Shizu, and we have some incidental memory. Why not? Might as well. And then we have Alice but blue hair. She says no early play, but let's say I exist and I have 2 other characters. I'm a 10-5. Great. If I have the Brainstormer and a 2-1 assist, I'm a 12-5. Fuck off. Right, and then you get stock, and then search, and then you just run Benimaru, our boy.
Sure, but what does the Pants Book deck get from set 3?
Oh, I don't think it. Okay, I haven't thought about it that much. I think it does get stuff that you can incorporate into it, but I just think the game plan is solid enough.
Oh, okay.
Still,
so
just
even
like I feel like just Uber
changing
compression,
nothing.
Even a promo's nothing. I
Yeah.
just think that compressing enough can get it done.
All right.
It was already like
Pretty good.
It was already pretty good.
Yes.
It already didn't super contest the board that well into decks that were going to crap on the board anyway. But like you just compress down and then you can get it done. And technically, there are things that came in set 3 that you can sub in that could make it run better. There's even a very funny thing that I don't have the resources to test right now, but they made a 2-1 assist that has, I think, like pay 4, ditch 1, give one of your finishers restand.
Oof.
For I guess like if you get screwed and you can't search out the other finishers, you're just like, well, we'll just make this one finisher a second finisher and just be funny. But like legitimately, I don't think it got that much new. but I think the game plan is good enough to just keep working.
You also have the Argo version of SAO in A tier.
That actually should be B tier.
Yeah, I think we both believe in Alice, but the problem with that finisher is you can't triple it.
No, you can't. You can't triple it. It's so hand expensive.
Yeah.
And especially with the new meta, with Overlord, with even just Slime and like a buffed up NINO, like I don't think you can conserve enough hand to make like even double Argo consistent. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that Argo's on play effect is the problem with it. It hurts it, and it can't play the same game as Kirito because Kirito doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's unfortunate because obviously Burn plus Musashi does feel like the juice in terms of dealing damage. The problem is it's just double Argo probably doesn't win games.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it for A tier. The rest of these are the usual suspects.
We've got some Kaguya going on.
Yeah, you put Kaguya's pants door list a little higher than I put it.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because I don't think that it's hard to be on the board. If you can't be on the board,
it is. Yeah.
If you can't be on the board at level 1 at all, I think that puts you in a difficult position.
That's fair enough.
All right, so let's go to B tier.
Let's go to some of the lessers.
Yeah.
We've already discussed Quince and Atla. You put Soei's new 8 pants list in B tier, and
I believe
yeah,
I believe that I think the slime game plan is strong enough to support that card, but it does feel like a slightly better version of the deck they had before, where it's
what are you imagining this list looks like? Is this 2-1 Mirin into Soei? Is it like a split? Is it?
I think that it's difficult to say. I think it could be run a number of ways. I think you have to have. I mean, if you don't have the 1-0, it's extremely problematic to get through deck 1. So I think you have to have that in some quantity. Sure. I don't know if Mirin comes into it. Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't.
Because the lists right now are literally just Mirin and Soei.
Yeah. And I think it could work that way as long as you you have like Ramaris. You have other ways to generate value to like get you by until you get into the right state to drop Mirin.
Yeah.
But what I will say is this finisher is an upgrade over the previous finisher.
Sure.
And but in the same vein, where it's like trying to like reel a little and then land the one shot, and just knock them right out of the game.
You think so? I mean, it sends the character to bottom deck.
Yeah.
And it needs a reverse.
Yeah, which reverses I don't think are problematic against. In most matchups, I don't think you will have trouble getting reverses.
Okay, sure.
But it isn't as good as their resource-heavy game plan, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that it definitely is fine. If that's the deck you want to play, then do it.
Sure.
We'll obviously have the pictures of this up on YouTube and we'll have links to it, but I'll say definitively, if any deck in the S, A, or B tier is in the top 8, that is not surprising in any way.
Yeah.
I believe that any of those decks is a top 8 worthy deck, and most of them are probably, I wouldn't blink an eye if they won. Because I believe that those are the builds, right? These are the builds that are running the show in the meta right now. If a deck that I have in C or D tier wins an event, or even top 4 is an event, I will be shocked.
Sure.
Because I think that there's significant weakness in anything that's in those tiers.
I definitely think for me, there's like a considerable split. I should probably like adjust my B tier into like B and B and a half. Because for me, it's like there's a top half of B tier that I'm in the same vein of like S and A will definitely top 8. Not surprised, like probably, except for like even like Pants Book Slime, I could see like that's fine not really being there. It's kind of like bottom of A tier for me. And then there's like a top half of B tier that I'm like, okay, I mean, if that happened, sure. And then the bottom half of B tier is like, no.
So, it obviously might help to read some of these aloud just to kind of align it.
Yeah, sorry. So my B tier includes top of the table for me would be like probably Dal 8 choice, MTI standby bar, Overlord 8 by and like Kaguya door pants and like KMD 8 bar, and the other one and Alice Argo style, and like the rest of it, like both Atlas, Christmas Party Kasumi, 8 by Dal are probably like bottom of B tier for me.
So I put 8 door Happy Christmas Kasumi in B as well. And even though it did well during spring, my problem with this deck is that it doesn't do well on the board at any point.
Yeah.
It can kind of get on the board at level 2, sort of, because it has the events, and then the event, the character gives power for events, and then it bombs you. But there are going to be some decks that don't give a crap about that, and it's going to be really hard for them to sustain their game plan even through level 1. There are a lot of level 1s that have enough power to resist Kasumi, even with combo, because of the way she gains power. And so it doesn't feel... That combo did pretty decent in during spring, and so I'm reluctant to just crap on it. But it's not a very good... I don't think it's a very good combo in the context of this season of Weiss Schwarz. It just doesn't feel like it's weak on power. It's also a brainstorm effect, which means you can't control the amount of cards you reveal. You also can't control like how it refreshes. So if you need to something in the warehouse and you have like whatever 2 cards or you know you want to try and get climaxes back, that's not happening. They go to the resolution zone. They just kind of chill there. So I don't know about that deck, but I have NINO here, and it's probably soft. NINO should probably be an A tier. Maybe
Sure.
It's just wishful thinking. I want that deck to just be bad. I hate that deck. But
yeah, sure.
But I also have TRV here. The Pachin dual laners versions.
Yeah.
That's the type of deck that you can just die.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's like a combination of SDS and Alice, where it's like Alice's obnoxious board states followed by SDS's raw scam power, where it's like, well, this confluence of things happened and now you're dead. Or did you not have a stock swap? Well, now you're dead.
Yeah.
So,
I just can't. I put both TRVs in C tier because I just can't get behind the consistency enough to really put it up higher. I understand how it works, and it can and will work, but I don't think it will work enough to get through like 8 rounds of Swiss.
Yeah.
Or 7 rounds of Swiss.
Yeah.
And that's just my thought.
Yeah, I think that, I'm with you. It is the type of deck that is high variance. Yeah. But if you're gonna be high variance, you better have a nasty finisher, and they do.
They do.
I also put Overlord 8 by here. So
same.
these are my top 2 8 by decks, I think. Overlord 8x has some really, really good matchups in the meta. One of the few decks that Gura does not want to face. And there's a number of other decks that it shuts down pretty hard. Having minus souls and anti-burn is kind of the sweet spot for not taking any damage and forcing the game into a state where you're just vanillaing. But I think that there's some decks that can get around it really well, and it's not... I think if you're going to go with a fully defensive game plan, you're going to have to commit to the idea that sometimes your opponent's deck state is going to be such that you can't win. And like if you're facing a heavily compressed deck, like you're just never going to land the vanillas that you need. And so that's kind of the same problem that Sora has, is you get into states where you're hitting for 4, it doesn't hit, it never hits, it will never hit. Your only game plan is minus souls, and if if that's your only game plan, then there's only so much you can do until the game's over.
Yeah.
So
in the interest of time, I'm just gonna say what the rest of us have. I've also put the previously mentioned 8 pants Soe and AOT 8 pants in C tier. I put AOT door choice in the dumpster D tier.
I put it down there too.
I can't believe in it in modern day and age.
I put Toph down there too. That's gonna garner some hate, I'm sure, but
yeah.
That just does not feel like that 8-bar Toph does not feel like a winning strategy in most games. It feels like a...
I threw it in B tier just because I haven't had enough experience with it to
I've
really
seen it
say...
played. I haven't played it. What I will say is there's nothing wrong with the game plan, but the numbers and the way it works are just worse than Kanata Marine. Yeah. And the zeros are categorically worse than Kanata Marine. So, yeah, if you're gonna play a minus souls deck, I mean, there's just better minus souls decks to play.
Yeah. And yeah, I'll throw these lists. If you're watching this, you've already seen these lists the whole time. And if you're on audio, both of them are in the description below to the side. I don't actually use like the mobile interface that much. It's in the description, wherever that is. And finally today, let's talk about the deck of the week. It just released. It's 8 Pants Slime.
Yeah. This will be the most fair way to lose at Weiss Schwarz.
Yep.
Talking about a deck that has no level 3 combo and is a pure value machine.
It's a pure value machine. That's all it is. It's like, it really is probably just the most fair way to lose at Weiss currently.
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything particularly special. It'll just be like, I'm gonna get some hand, I'm gonna throw like a very reasonable finisher at you. Did you die? No? Okay, then I might die.
So what I love about this deck is
you love something about this deck?
Yeah. I don't like facing it because it's when you've lost, and a lot of times that happens very early. But there's few feelings I enjoy less than looking over at a slime deck that's like 3 memory, 8 hand, full board, full clock, full stock. I'm like, well, and they're like 1/1. And they're about to get rid of deck 1, and I'm like, yeah, well, this game looks bad. Like,
yeah.
There's not a lot of ways into this game. They replaced some of their older technology that was more memory-centric with some newer, better technology that is more value-centric, but it doesn't do memory as much anymore. It's pretty much just the 1-0 now.
So here's what we've done. We've constructed this deck around Benimaru. The 3/2 Benimaru that says, on play heal, if you have blue, red, yellow in the level, on attack, pay 1, check the top, burn for the level of that card, +1.
Yeah, so it's just better but we can't really play it. So it kind of needs to be better.
It kind of just is your finisher now.
Yeah.
Your secondary options to pair with Benimaru become Gazelle of old. You can kind of sculpt the burns. Dragonoid Milam for just an extra burn 1 and a clock kick, or the brand new Battle Thirsty Shion burn 4 after pay 2, ditch 2, kill the rest of your stock, but then also ping 1 if it cancels.
Yeah, so Dragonoid Milim adds a lot of certainty to this sort of finisher, where when you have unknown burn types, especially because you don't know... I mean, you have a check 2 in reorder, so you can kind of get an idea of what you think it's going to be.
If you run it.
Yeah. But at the and you have the ditch to reveal for
you have a
for
Soe,
salvage.
yeah,
the Soe. But ultimately, you kind of, it's uncertain what packets you'll have, and so having reliable sources of fixed damage in a setup like that are nice.
Yeah, and so Dragonoid is one path. Xion is another path. Gazelle is a path of like, I'm just gonna check my 3 and pick my burns from the options I have, right? And
yeah, similar to the kind of like the Guild Thunder strategy for Escanor, but not as obviously not as ridiculous, but it does let you gain perfect knowledge, which is a big deal.
Yeah, and so I guess going from the top end down, in order to set this up, we've got this brand new 2-1 Nguyen combo. Nguyen says, Alice, but search. You can stock from the waiting room, but you get to search the card. So you get to set up compression for the next deck, simultaneously compress your current deck, and have all the tools that you want for either staying at 2 or just killing the enemy.
Right, and so we have better Alice here, but it kind of has to be, right? We have no way to get it out on the board pre-2.
Yeah.
And historically in Weiss, the level 2 combos that have been run, the only reason they have been run is because they were extreme value engines, to the point where it was like it couldn't be ignored. It was producing too much value.
Yeah.
And so
Nguyen is like one of them.
Yes, Nguyen is like that because she's big, doesn't require you need a full board to combo off, but she doesn't need a whole lot of assistance to get to this size. And they also have a pretty rock solid back row.
Yeah. Back row is your Nguyen Brainstormer, which is a search brainstormer to the sadness of many slime players. Which is the only reason you're happy about that we're sad. But we have that, and then if we have this 2-1 red Shuna, the whole board, if you have the Brainstormer, gets 2k.
Right.
And hexproof, except for the 2-1 Shuna.
Right.
And so another reason why this was really played and still is played in Japan is that you don't care about Overlord, because when it comes time for them to it chooses X of the markers that you send. It's not one at a time. So they can only pick Shuna.
Right.
And then you get the rest of your board.
Right. So that's really important. That's a reason why this deck's good in the meta. It's got the right power numbers to beat Alice.
Also, incidental hexproof is sick.
Yes.
You can't get money countered now. You can't get rest countered now.
No.
It's, feels great.
Yeah, so the decks that need to do that stuff will prioritize getting rid of Shuna. So things that Shuna doesn't like is Dancing Dragons. Is really annoying for that deck in particular because the downgrades happen one at a time. And it's also Hololive's got great answers for that deck. But it is a rock solid level 2 board that will produce 6 stock and 3 hand size. Now it costs you 3 stock to get it, arguably. So is it producing more resources than you would normally have? No. Is it producing a better board for the same resources you would normally have? Yes. So,
and it's much more selective.
Yes, of course. Now, that's deck dependent. Like every other search, when you search prior to attacks, you're going to increase your trigger situation. So you need to be mindful about that. It's better to have a slightly worse deck going into the Nguyen turn. Yeah. Because she will tidy it up. But the other thing to be cognizant of is that sometimes it's better to just get the deck clear and not worry too much about what you pick up, because Slime has a lot of hand fixing.
And talking about that, let's talk about our 1s and 0s. Our 1s are really just Shizu and surprised if Murin wasn't good enough. There's a 1-0 that tutors the Murin for ditch a character, and if you have 2 or more characters, it's a 6k with waiting room encore or waiting room clock encore.
Yeah.
So our one game is pretty fine.
Yeah, we have this corpse that we don't care about at all, except for the context that it tutors the Murin, which means you don't have to spend very many resources setting up Murin.
Yeah. And if you need a setup color for your, your red, blue, yellow finisher,
right,
you've got it.
Yeah, exactly. And blue is the color that they seem to struggle with the least with. Red and yellow become the problematic colors because there's much less of them. But this card is really good because there's only so much setup time you have in a Weiss Schwarz game, and a lot of it is spent towards the level 1 side of the house because you have the time frame to set it up is much shorter. Odds are you're going to get 1 or 2 turns at 0 max. And so if you have a 3-turn 0 game, the game's gone weird. And so you want to use your early value engines, your Rickies and your early drop searches or drop salvages or brainstorm hits or whatever to get Shizu, because Murin will come. That problem will solve itself. Either Shizu will get it by milling a level 2, or the Bonder will get it by Shizu will get it the Bonder, and then the Bonder picks it up.
Or Shizu will get Soe will get the Bonder or the Murin, and the Bonder will pick it up.
Right.
Many ways.
Yeah, so their access is pretty good. The waiting room access is weaker than it was before, simply because they had to change out brainstorms. So now they don't have as good waiting room access, but it's still there. There's still 4 of the Soe, so it's not like anything that goes to the waiting room is gone forever. And the Shizu combo is salvaging from the waiting room. So they do have some waiting room access. It's not none, but it's not as good as it was before. So that is a bit of a something that got worse after set 3. Is their waiting room access isn't as good, but everything else is a lot better.
Yeah. And so for the zeros, because we need a smorgasbord of colors, we have, in the version that I'm currently playing at least, we have Soe.
Yeah.
Literally just a blue shift.
Yep.
Discard, check X, salvage X from the waiting room.
Yeah.
Nice and easy. Yeah. We have Flash Hakuro. It's a big oversized 3/5 yellow that says on reverse, send the character to the stock. Bring their stock out.
Yeah.
Very useful. You want to bury your opponent's climaxes, you want to deny Aqua, you want to deny on death Katsuki, so on and so forth. Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And then for our red, kind of the hardest one, we have Aqua at home. Hololive Aqua at home.
Right.
On death, pay 1, clock the top, then check 2, add all characters. And it gives 1/5 on attack, so that you can give the Flash Hakuro enough power to get over the enemy Hololive Aqua. Or anything else.
Yeah, so that Flash Zero is a very obnoxious card. Obviously, it shuts down a whole bunch of mechanics. And on death speed is one of those things that some decks badly need, and because they have salvage combos or whatever, and denying that feels very painful. So if you're facing a slime deck, you'll have to keep in mind that you might want to run it in if you need to get that milling action to go on during your, make it happen during your turn, because if they have that card, they can shut it down completely, and then you get nothing. So that doesn't feel very good. The rest of the Zero cadre looks very similar to what you would remember from before.
Same climax swapper, same good old stock swap,
Yeah.
Although there are some other options now as well. You have a set 2 Soka that will shuffle back 2 and gain no penalty from side attacking. This is a tech mainly to set up your 2-1 combo that searches.
So this is perfect for the Murin combo, because if the deck is tiny, then you just put the things that you want into the deck and then search them. It's bulletproof, and it requires a lot less moving parts.
Yeah, because all you have to do is Soe for Sokka, Sokka for search targets.
That's
Play
it.
the 2-1 combo.
That's it.
Easy as you like. And there's also a new Amagi in set 3. I haven't experimented with it yet. Some of us have. It's an Amagi for 1 or higher that bounces to your hand whenever a climax is played to give 2k power.
Yeah.
And so you get deck speed, you get a card, you get a yellow card in your hand to clock at level 2,
so
guarantee your yellow color.
So this card being yellow is a big deal in my opinion, because yellow seems to be the struggle card, where there aren't that many really good yellow choices. You have the Rimuru from set 1 that's like a console, and then you can pitch climaxes to do stuff.
Yeah, I learned that's a $35 card the other day. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
So this Amagi kind of puts a band-aid on that situation where you can jam another yellow card into your deck that has reasonable value. The other thing is that this deck tends to lean a little top-heavy, so 1 or higher is not a problem.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So I think that card is at least worth exploring. What's great about having 3 sets to work with is you have a lot of cards to check out.
I think the list is definitely a 40 card deck plus 10 free slots that personal preference, choose as you like to kind of fine tune it.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
If you don't want to play the set 3 Aqua at Home, you can play the set 1 Ricky, the set 2 Milim Chaser, and then maybe jam, because you don't care about events, maybe you can jam in Mask at that point. Maybe you want Mask in that setup, you know. There's a few different ways that you can set up 8 pans.
Yeah, I think that it's gonna evolve based on the meta. I think that meta calls will be what fits in those last 5 slots. Basically, is like, what are my worst matchups? How can I respond to them in a responsible way and without hurting my deck in any other way? Yeah. And so, great deck. I think a lot of it. I think of it very highly.
And so, that's the deck of the week. You know, let us know how you're doing with Nguyen and Shizu and pals, because I'm definitely grinding that. That's going to be my deck for the season. And then finally Guilty Gear will come out, and I will have a deck that I am fully enthusiastic and ready to play. But for now, I'm just jamming pants with the rest of them. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm hoping that a deck jumps out at me in terms of something I want to play for fall.
You know, the funny thing is, I got to, for fun, just like ram an Uma Musume deck. I net decked Shizukatsu's list for fun. And oh my god, that is one of the most fun Weiss experiences I have ever had in a long time. Just like, real small tangent. It has this thing called Inheritance on a bunch of cards that says when you play a different card, marker this card underneath that.
Yeah.
And so, the marker compression that you can set up with the deck milling that you have is kind of nasty. I was playing against the local, and at the end of my first deck, I had a full hand, 7 stock, 5 markers on the field, 6 clock, and a full field, obviously, and 1 card left in deck, and baby, that was going back with 8 climaxes.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yo, oh, that just felt so good. It's a very funny deck, but it's not coming to English yet. So we'll see. Maybe if that came to English, that might be like the enthusiastic deck that I would try to pick up.
Yeah, for me, I will be picking up my first Japanese deck in a long time.
What are you picking up?
So we're gonna be King of Fighters.
Yes! Yo, that's right.
So
yes.
We're running back an old set. We're deleting the bad mechanics. We're adding back the good mechanics. We're keeping the old broken mechanics.
And we're gonna be the King of Fighters.
And hopefully, you know, I'm getting it purely based on the nostalgia of it. It's one of the oldest sets in Weiss, but I also didn't think it would come to English. But you know, you just never know what might come to English.
Never know. That'll be it for today. Next time we'll talk about some more Weiss. Hopefully we'll have some more regionals info by then. We'll take a closer look at what our plans are and what we're going to talk about, and probably take a look at the times here. It's probably time to talk about Gura.
Yeah. Yeah, it really will be.
But that's our show for today. So tune in next time after your next deck count, and don't you forget to take the refresh point.